Welcome everyone to the Legion. We're about to begin this segment of Legion Masters. What does audiovisual mean within the cultural battle? That's today's topic. I want to thank you all for being here. Also thanks to MIA, Femto, and Zorak for making this event possible, and to Libertarian Media. Well, we have two great guests with us, whom, of course, I want to thank for being here. They're, as you know, fully involved in everything, supporting our president, Santiago Oria and Macarena Rodríguez. Let's give them a warm welcome with a big round of applause.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, for those who know and those who don't. Macarena is Javier Milei's photographer. She's been with him for quite some time now. She's also a social psychologist and a journalist. Santiago Oria is also a film director and has been with Javier Milei since the very beginning. He was the creator of the campaign for Congress and later for the presidency.
You wanted to create the campaign.
Publicist and creative in both campaigns. Publicist and creator, very good. Okay, to expand on how it all started. How you took the first steps alongside Javier Milei, I'd like you to tell us. How you came to meet Javier Milei, how you took the first steps with him. Ladies first.
No, go ahead, we have very different stories.
All right, okay, perfect. Well, there are two major turns I took in my life. The first was dropping out of law school, the path to becoming a lawyer. Actually, I did graduate as a lawyer, but I didn't like the profession. I was doing well, working at a good firm, tax law. I wanted to fight against the tax authority to reduce client taxes. I wasn't satisfied. I didn't feel fulfilled. I wanted to be part of something meaningful, an adventure every day, breaking away from routine. After a long search, 8 years of introspection about what I wanted to do, I found a calling in film and audiovisual storytelling, which had a strong impact on me. I quit the law firm and enrolled at FUC in San Telmo. So that was my first big turning point. I was always a liberal because I come from a family with that tradition where my grandfather was a VP candidate with Al Salgare in the UCD. So at home I was very immersed in those ideas. I was raised on that. But beyond what you inherit, I later reaffirmed it through my own reading and my own personal search to figure out what I believed in. And well, it's something that's constantly evolving, right? You start evolving with experience, and you start rethinking and refining your ideas.
Now you've graduated, how did your family take it?
No, naturally, going into a film career was something uncommon in my family. We've always been focused on traditional careers. It was really hard for them to accept it, but eventually they saw how unhappy I was with the other path, and they had to accept it after many years. Actually, I was successful as a lawyer. Things weren't bad, but I just wasn't happy. So they accepted it, which was important to me because I want to be in harmony with my family too. Yeah, in the end, they accepted it. Well, it turned out more or less okay. Well, the second big swerve, that was the first one, leaving law for film. The second big swerve was going all in, fully committing to a political project. A new one. With a high chance that it wouldn't be successful. With someone that no one believed in at the time. And basically canceling myself in the artistic world because also, now maybe it's used up a bit, but back then, you know, cancel culture was intense, with the rise of strong feminism, gender ideology, and everything associated with the left. There was dominant, being right-wing, being liberal was taboo. I thought this is it, on burning bridges, losing job opportunities. But one big door opened, Javier Milei. So I said, I'm going to bet on that. It wasn't a speculative bet, I genuinely wanted to follow the deepest part of myself, my feelings, and what made me feel fulfilled as a person. Exactly like applying my art to the cause of freedom. I wanted to do it, otherwise, I felt I couldn't live, I couldn't get out of bed in the morning. I wanted a life of meaning, to gain the strength to face each day an adventure and fulfillment.
How did you start doing it?
Goals, well, no, and obviously the quarantine. I'll try to keep it short, okay? But the quarantine was a turning point, a huge restriction on freedom, especially for us. We all went through it, I won't detail. But in that physical paralysis that the quarantine brought, an internal revolution happened within me. I want to go out and fight this. For this to end so we could be free, so people could keep working and not go bankrupt, and all the other harms the quarantine caused, which we already know.
The oppression was from all sides.
Exactly, it was overwhelming. So I started going to the protests at the bishop's place. And I was someone who was totally disconnected from, let's say, at that time, from politics. I mean, I didn't have any connections or anything like that. I went to the obelisk and said, well, I want to use my videos and the things I'd post on social media to give more visibility and strength to what's happening, to this phenomenon that's going on. So I started doing that and uploading my videos to different platforms, and at one point, suddenly, Claro Malating shows up. And he was very outspoken against the lockdown, so I got in touch with him and said, Claro, let's make an anti-lockdown documentary, you going against the lockdown. He said, sure, sounds great. We went to the Cabana building, and we made a documentary that, if you want, you can look up online. Since it's part of the story from that time, and it's called For Every Free Argentine, Malatin Speaks. So I made that documentary, and it was a really fun experience. When that documentary came out, I got a call from Carolina Claro. Carolina Claro is like the top assistant or right-hand woman to an Acrean from Corazon, America, and she's the mother of one of my best friends, and I had no idea about this connection between her and Javier Milei. I never knew what she did for work, nothing.
Small world.
She says, stay away, Malatin. He's a misogynist, a fascist, a fraud, a con artist. I didn't listen, but she was giving me good advice.
Yeah, she wasn't involved at all, not even a little.
Stay away from that evil being and get close to Javier Milei. So she introduced me to Javier Milei, and that's how I ended up going to his house. I had never seen her in person before.
Thank you, Carolina. Thank you. Thanks.
I went to the house around mid-2020 and... well, I didn't want to show up empty-handed to meet him, so I put together a whole PowerPoint presentation where I showed him a documentary project that I wanted to offer him to do. So I thought, how can we make it into something really great, but also useful for him? Like a wing-wing. Let's do. You're about to release your book, Pandemonics. You're going to publish your book, Pandemonics. So let's make a documentary based on the book, which also helps you promote it. I thought the idea was great, and well, I got to work. I worked a lot with Lydia Lemoyne at that time, and we put together, that documentary called Pandemonics. And I had just graduated from college, so it was one of the first things I did after graduating. It was like my first big project I worked on. And I don't want to go on too long, but...
This is your moment,
No, well, but we're about to go live. We've got plenty of time.
Well, it was a totally guerrilla-style production, using whatever resources we had. I contacted people who started helping me out, until Galiente Sumo told me my family's factory is in Moreno. Can use it location. Yeah, sure, mend it, you produce. Of the video project. Awesome, so he joined the team. We worked hard, and that turned into Pandemonics. Which, at the time we were having fun, being rebellious, going against the quarantine, being defiant, honestly, it was all kind of light.
No,
like with innocence and a certain naivety, you could say. And it was about having fun, supporting ideas. And I was also supporting Javier Milei, who to me was already a genius. He shook up TV, but he wasn't even 1% of what he is now. It's amazing how far he's come.
He hadn't entered politics.
He had him.
Cultural battle.
That is, I had not entered politics. Pandemomics is studied in books on Milei. It's an incredible thing. Pandemomics, Santi Rios. And for me, at that time, it was something super. It wasn't ambitious, but it became historical. It was incredible. Karina Milei was pleased with the work. Javier was pleased with the work. And the following year, when the campaign started, they told me, Santi, you have to join the campaign. Javier told me, you're the one who understands this liberal epic we're building. I want you to be part of it. Left my production company with friends as it was unsustainable, alongside the political work. And besides, I'm going to dedicate myself to this full life, not full-time full life. So yeah, I left everything and fully committed to what is La Libertad Avanza. And well, the truth is, we had to start everything from scratch, from absolutely zero. There was no logo, no identity, nothing. Everything was built from the ground up. That's how I started meeting people, to discover talent and recruit people, and work with others. The logo for La Libertad Avanza was created. Pancho helped create Beagle.
Let's go, Pancho.
Designing La Libertad Avanza with Libertad on top and Avanza below. I found talent, people appeared. I explore what people are creating on social media. That's how I became good friends with Nicolas Recart from the Libertad Party and who now was the producer of everything we did during the campaigns. I found Santi Pancho, who's here in the audience.
Genius, great editor.
A genius, an excellent editor. And well, and honestly, I'd like to hand it over to Macarena now, and then we'll continue. But basically, we created everything from scratch. A whole audiovisual aesthetic with a lot of input from Karina and Javier, who are incredibly creative and would tell me things like, go with this music, I like this color, honestly, they really get it.
While respecting each person's identity. I mean, it's like being the executors of the ideas they have because honestly, and this doesn't get said enough, they're amazing creative communicators. They really have a strong intuition and a deep understanding of what resonates with people. They give us a lot of direction to work with. And then we bring those ideas to life, put them into practice, and take them to their fullest potential. That's good because it really shows other aspects that we usually don't see in other politicians. So being able to represent who they truly are is great because it's genuine.
And that's how it was. The idea was to create a style that was unique and original than all other politicians, to stand out. Javier Milei was a unique candidate. All the communication had to be unique. So we could not repeat what the other traditional parties were doing. Also, I want to pause so Macarena can share her story, and if you want, we can explore the creative concepts. But yeah, honestly, together we created something new from nothing. A story that drew from many inspirations but combined them in an alchemy that ignited, combusted, and boom, exploded into what we now see as La Libertad Avanza. Well, Macarena.
How did you get started? What were your beginnings? How did you come to work with Javier Milei? Well, I think my story also begins during the pandemic and all the frustration, like many of the people sitting here, the anger of how can it be that the country came to a halt, that the economy stopped, that so many people are suffering so much, that families can't even say goodbye to each other. I had a hard time during the pandemic. I graduated as a journalist recently and worked at a news company. Only visible faces stayed. We were let go. That was very frustrating for me. Suddenly, I started seeing Javier Milei on television. At that time, It was just something I watched and occasionally shared on social media. And when he decided to get into politics to run for Congress, that's when I said, enough, I don't want to just be a spectator anymore. I want to get involved, see what I can do. So I started by joining a party, at that time the Libertad Party. And I started from the bottom, step by step. I began by going to membership tables, setting up membership tables, handing out flyers within the party structure. You started as a volunteer, then became a coordinator. These were all unpaid positions, but it was really just to organize everyone's responsibilities. So I started as a communications assistant, then became a territory coordinator. I decided where the tables would be set up in District 15. Then I moved on to become the communications coordinator and started managing the Libertarians District 15 account at that time. So I organized the walks, we recorded the walks, we talked to shop owners and local businesses. I love that because when you're out walking the streets, when you set up the tables and people come up to you, you meet people who agree with you and people who don't. Note that in 2021, the ideas of liberty were something very unusual. Yes, totally. Javier was gaining TV fame, but there were still people who had no idea what it meant to be a liberal. So I liked going out to the street and explaining it. We had specific flyers about the key points, about its essence, what we wanted to work on, what we were aiming for. So, of course, you're going to run into people who suddenly agree with you and people who don't. But also, it's in that enriching debate where you also learn more because you have to know how to listen to others in order to understand how to improve things. Anyway, I started growing that Instagram account. Among the 15 districts, it was the Instagram that had grown the most. And suddenly I met someone I worked with who was an advertiser, Alberto Arena, who was also part of the Libertad Party, and he brought me into what was the link between the party and La Libertad Avanza at that time. So I started working as the community manager for La Libertad Avanza. We developed communication strategies so that people could understand the message in a simple way and share it. All of it like that. Right, but without spending a dime, without putting in any money, just relying on people liking the content we were creating and sharing it. And honestly, I started that account pretty much from scratch, and today it has 530,000 followers.
Hold on, love. So one of the characteristics of what we do is that we're ultra frugal. I mean, we spend practically nothing, often zero. You do what you can with what you have, and it didn't go badly at all. Honestly, we work with very, very, very few resources, but when you find out how much other parties spend on communication, it's unbelievable.
It's a bit of creativity mixed with a good dose of common sense, and you can do a lot with limited resources.
Like, you really can't believe it. But we turned that so-called disadvantage into something that worked in our favor. Yeah, because we, maybe not in an in-your-face kind of way, but we turn austerity into a value that people actually appreciate. People appreciate when money isn't wasted. Money spent on ads, on politics, people notice, and when they see those extravagant ads, they get upset. They're spending a ton on this while the country has all these problems, especially back when Alberto was in office. But when they see that we communicate in a very modest way, that turns into a positive.
It's also that the rules of the game for traditional politics have been upended. I mean, suddenly in all this non-budget approach of being creative, figuring out how to make an impact on people, starting to do our own analysis based on what we saw in the stats on social media. And suddenly, the other side, with that huge structure, full of money, the funds, everything, found themselves thinking, how is it possible that these kids don't want to steal and are also growing by leaps and bounds? So they had to change their strategy too.
And we also relied heavily on the people, what I call the popular campaign, which is the campaign where everyone participates and everyone creates content. I always encourage it and retweet and share things that people do naturally, because I think that gives life to the campaign and makes it feel like it really is the people's fight against the establishment. Because it's more than a story. It's everyday people, with their phones, resisting the concentrated powers of the establishment.
And I think people are joining, creating content, going out there.
It has its pros and cons, right? I mean, the advantage is that it generates a huge amount of content that doesn't cost anything for the party's structure, and there's a lot of spontaneity and participation. The downside is that you might get a person who does something that ends up hurting the cause. But well, you have to weigh the downside of, thank you, maybe a nut job does something that could cause trouble, versus, let's say unleashing awakening lions, right? Unleashing the tremendous potential people have to support and participate in the cause. So I always encourage people to feel like they're part of it, like they have the freedom to create things. No need to wait for an official directive. I mean, if you record Miley support, do it, upload it, share it, all of that is.
Every little bit counts. It really adds up.
You said something important about staying in touch with business owners. Can't neglect that part either.
No, never. In fact, today we went out, and the ministers also joined the walks with the candidates here in Caba. And well, I was with Santi, so we walked the streets too. We had a membership table. We went into shops, into the kiosks. They also made a reel. And well, it's about hearing firsthand how people are experiencing things. And like you said, we can't forget about those grassroots supporters.
Yeah, Santi, I saw that you did. I'm not sure if it was between episodes, but some movie analysis. And I saw something really interesting, some leftist films that you analyzed in a positive light. Yeah, careful.
No, well, basically it was an invitation from the folks at Carajo to do that. And well, honestly, it was great during the summer programming. It's part of an alchemy I tried to create in the work with Javier Milei, which is making the campaign documentary, meaning showing reality. Because nowadays on social media and communication, what draws people in is what's authentic, real, and genuine. So that necessarily has to be with a documentary style. Compared to other politicians then who at that moment were doing things with actors, were doing acting sketches, like some scripts that were all very artificial, said, no, let's use raw reality. We have a genuine candidate who doesn't need a script. So let's go with pure, raw docu style, just show the reality. You know the idea of they don't see it, Nicolas Marquez's book, The Revolution They Didn't See Coming? That underground world that was bubbling up among Argentinians, which the mainstream media wasn't showing. So we have to show this revolution that's happening in real time right before our eyes. That's what needs to be shown. So that was the hyper-realistic documentary part, but combined with the spirit, the animal spirit, combined with the soul of inspiring and epic fiction films like Thank You. Like the ones I analyzed in those videos, like Rocky, like Braveheart, like 300. Like so many others, which capture the essence of that fight for freedom and to capture it from the point of view of the music, the editing, the selected images, and to have the hyperrealism be infused with that which, deep down, lives in our spirits but is expressed audio-visually by imbuing it with that dose of artistry so that raw documentary image suddenly gains the power that those fiction films have.
Honestly, being with Javier and Javier Milei because they're going non-stop. 24/7 at every event, on every trip, they're there. And at the same time, they're fighting the cultural battle through social media, through documentaries. Honestly, it's just.
One important thing is that political parties, in 99% of cases, work with advertisers who are mercenaries, who don't believe in the ideas. I mean, they're doing a job. They might do it better or worse, and sometimes really well, but it's instinct. I mean, the relationship I have, that Macarena has, and that whole team has, is that we're fanatics about the ideas. We truly feel it as a cause. We feel it in our soul, we feel it in our hearts, truly, and we care deeply about Javier and Karina. There's a really strong passion there.
We came into this space when there was nothing.
That makes a difference later in the product. You can feel that passion, that magic in the piece. That's what people told me.
No, yeah, I vouch for that magic. It gives you goosebumps. Your productions are wonderful. And you can feel it from here, from the other side, truly.
Except the Trascos. The Trascos are cool. So their partners are interesting too, and much to learn. No, but seriously, it's incredible because the Trascos make 15 billion ads, and the Fadio is out there making spots for the left. And they don't get any votes, but the spots are good.
Too bad idea.
Right, I mean, they fail because they can't convince people with those sketchy ideas. But there you have another case where I do admit the creators are passionate about what they're doing. And you can tell, and it's cool, I like it, but, well, the problem is the ideas. They don't convince people because they're already from the 19th century, even Marx's ideas, so. But anyway.
It's nice that they say they like Javier Milei, and you guys who spend a lot of time with him.
Because I met him when he was the #1 liberal, even though people still argued back in 2020. The internal liberal debate was unsettled yet. He wasn't the undisputed leader, but was the dominant hegemon because on TV he was the spearhead. He was already clearly the leader.
He was the Nostradamus of economics. Like I named, he'd make a prediction. His predictions came true. That had a huge impact.
Politics and the struggle for power is terrible. It destroys relationships, it's often awful. So at that moment there was lots of infighting. Instead of all of us saying, Javier, it's you, as it was obvious, it ended up happening they tried to oppose him. I lost my train of thought. Back then. We didn't know him with power. Yes, he was influential. So that's why we had a close relationship.
Javier Milei changed taking power. Give he change, or is he still the same?
No, his essence is still the same. Obviously, he's evolved because everything that happens, I mean, it's impossible for it not to change you as a person. But to me, it's like Simba becoming king, you know? It's like someone who grew into becoming a leader.
He's a very humble, very transparent, and very important person who has impeccable knowledge of economics.
Plus he acts, speaks, and follows through.
Exactly. The word of the Milei is solid as it is.
There's been a positive change. There's a positive change if he changed. I mean, he changed because it's impossible not to change when you become president of the nation because of the enormous responsibility you have and all the pressure and everything, but it's an evolution. Like a sudden realization that people entrusted him with a huge responsibility.
Realized they didn't need to join politics. I mean, neither Javier nor Karina needed to. They were doing well giving private economics lectures. They traveled, but suddenly they were leaving the cultural battle in the media. And when they started getting censored, when all of that began to be shut down, that's when they thought maybe to truly bring about change in Argentina, the cultural battle has to be taken into politics. You have to get involved, even if it's one very exhausting, where they come at you with everything. But the courage they showed, especially Karina, in building an entire structure, an entire party from scratch, is truly remarkable. And in such a short time, they managed to get Javier to the presidency.
The more they attack Javier Milei, the stronger he rises. That's something that helped us.
That I already know, political jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu, a martial arts technique that uses an opponent's strength to hit back harder. Aikido does that too. In Aikido, redirect attackers' momentum to make them fall. So yes, we've really applied political jiu-jitsu often. For example, they would say, he's dangerous, he is dangerous.
Very good compare.
This is shown in the movie The Liberal Revolution. They said, he's a dangerous guy. We agreed, yes, we're dangerous to the establishment, let's put. So all that negative energy, we transformed it into something positive by taking the concept of dangerous, seen as negative, and turning it into, yes, we are, of course, we're dangerous. We will tear down the current corrupt system and spark the revolution that was sparked.
Now, with this talk of evolution and care, do you all have to? Do you limit how you show Javier in one way or another? Do you try to maintain a certain aesthetic or?
No, I need.
Three for all.
No, there's an effort to ensure everything comes out well. Yes.
We're professionals. We know, after so many years of working with him, we know what works best, what comes across best. We know which shots are probably the most effective. But well, Javier is rock and roll, so the truth is it ends up being easy, because wherever he steps, something extraordinary comes out.
And it's part of the journey, of course, with him and
it's also that, from the beginning it was maybe going out for a walk with 10 people, and more would join. Suddenly it was 100, then 400, and then we couldn't walk anymore and had to get on the back of the truck and ride through thousands of people. That was also an incredible change. And hearing people say to him, in fact, there's a video where someone says, Javier, please save Argentina.
And then that was epic.
So many people. No, it was just incredible. It really moved me. I was seeing it firsthand and I couldn't believe it. Even I couldn't believe I was in that place, standing beside the person who's truly giving everything to change the course of Argentina, and today he's making it happen.
No, Speaking of how emotional this whole adventure we've lived, and are still living, has been, sometimes while in editing, I tear up, and that's when I realize the video is turning out great.
If it moves him, it'll move you.
If I get emotional, chances are others will too. But there have been some really intense moments. First we toured Buenos Aires, then we toured the country, and now we're followed globally. And the influence that has is incredible.
Neighborhood event.
Incredible where the neighborhood phenomena arrived.
In fact, abroad they say, long live freedom, damn it, long live freedom, damn it, unbelievable.
It's truly impressive. And there are moments that feel like turning points, like a before and after. During Trump's inauguration, all the US journalists warned him. People edited the video of Javier hailing a cab, the cab doesn't stop, and now he's one of the most influential people in the world. In how long? In 3-4 years, it's...
in no time.
There's no precedent. This is very impressive.
When you do things with passion and conviction, you can go really far. Miley is the example.
Sometimes it takes a while for everything to sink in, because it happens so fast.
Well, you're a fundamental part of why we have the best president in history today.
Just a small, intricate, and simple part. Courthouses people.
The people are all. Without you, this space wouldn't exist.
Before we move on to the Q&A part, get ready. If anyone wants to ask something, we'll raise hands. Do you want to add anything else? Something that might be tea for, I don't know, someone who wants to work through audiovisual media, through photography, to communicate or fight the battle from that angle. Any tea takeaway?
No, maybe one message is that if you want to be freedom activists, in general, or for La Libertad Avanza as a party in particular, the best thing is to be, useful people. And nowadays, audiovisual work is one of the things most in demand. It's one of the most valued skills, not in terms of money, but in terms of need. So, when someone is really good technically, well, they get sought after, and that allows them to, work at the highest level, let's say, which is. So, audiovisual skill is a skill that in politics is. Nowadays, with social media, since we all consume politics mainly through photos and videos, it's It's a highly valued expertise. So, if it's something you're interested in, pursue that path because it can take you really far. That's why it's a good skill to have. Another skill is being able to speak very well, and to speak well, you need to know what you're talking about. So, I also suggest in order to be effective and useful, because there's also the issue of being a Macabeo, right? It's not about the number of soldiers, but the strength that comes from above. But having few soldiers is because we're ultra, hyper-trained militants. We're the kind of people who... I don't want to sound arrogant, but the idea is that you have to be worth 100 Kirchnerists, you know? So, a Libertad Avanza militant must outperform 1,000 Kirchnerists. Then, that requires you to be there. You must be a very good technician and also be a well-informed person who knows about history, who knows his ideas, and is capable of defending them, and can then apply them day to day, because every day at work is where critical decisions are made. This image can't go anymore. It can be politically good or bad. This does not advance the cause. You have to develop your own judgment, and that requires a lot of training. So yeah, that's it. Motivation for all of us to educate ourselves. Because you have to be a soldier worth 1,000 of theirs.
Elga.
Anything you have to offer will be welcome. And sometimes you say, no, I'm not going to help out, I'm not going to get involved, because I don't know if what I can contribute is actually useful. Everything adds up. So reach out to your local communities or your province or wherever you live and see what you can do. Obviously, audiovisual content is a powerful tool, and maybe it's just recording yourself and saying something, or tell other people to join the space. Talk a bit about the headquarters of freedom. With just a cell phone, you can do amazing things, and if not, then just share the information, help it go viral. Literally, this space grew thanks to people spreading the word, thanks to you all. Javier Malia is president today because all of you said, let's share these ideas, and that's literally how we got here.
Swani, I'm going to take the liberty of sharing something very brief that happened to me. I turned on my phone with all the injustices that were happening, how they were attacking Javier Milei and so on, and I ended up receiving threats. Thank you. Because thanks to those threats I moved forward with the ideas. I'm now involved in La Libertad Avanza, and I'm still going. Really, maybe people talk and say a lot. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. You have to do it. And you also have to start getting stronger if you want to call yourself a Milei supporter, libertarian, or liberal. Well, you have to strengthen those ideas precisely.
It's a nice space. The activism in Altia's freedom movement is a space full of camaraderie. The truth is, I think we all listen to each other. We genuinely collaborate to help the space grow, all on a voluntary basis. And that's what really makes a difference.
The issue of fear is really important. I had forgotten to mention it because, it's like I've already lost most of the fear, so I kind of forgot.
That's it.
But those two sharp turns I mentioned in my life, I was really scared, which delayed my decisions. I was really afraid. What are they going to say? What will people think? Will doors close on me? Obviously, there were a lot of cultural trailblazers who made it easier to be able to openly defend these ideas, to whom we owe a huge debt, number one being Javier Milei. But overcoming fear is fundamental. I remember I didn't even have Twitter. I had nothing. I wasn't involved in the political side of social media. I remember when Pandanomics came out, my first project with Javier Milei, my first political thing. I started getting hate on social media for the first time. It was. At first it was, people are saying some horrible things to me.
Am I crazy, right?
And if you want to know what they were saying to me, just go to my Twitter today and you'll see worse. The stuff people say to me. But yeah, gradually you toughen up. You start becoming Steve.
Ignore foolish words. Let them slide off you.
Overcoming fear is crucial. You must overcome fear. What does overcoming fear mean? That you move forward even if it might mean your own destruction.
No, and that's why it's also really important to be well informed about what's being done, and also about the government's achievements, so you can debate. I mean, to be able to fight, you have to be informed. You have to know what you're talking about. And nowadays we have so many achievements. So the path to fight that battle is getting easier and easier.
It's amazing because, well, I started doing. At one point I was doing a monthly summary and I couldn't keep up. It was too much. I mean, what do? Well, then I switched to a weekly summary. But even then, I have to pick just a few things so I can fit everything into a reel, you know? It's pretty hard because things are constantly happening too.
Literally.
Like,
Oh, wait, maybe one last thing. Even though there's the day-to-day work of producing short videos and all that, I'm always thinking long-term. I'm thinking that everything I collect while filming short videos for social media is the archive material that later becomes the movies, the series, the documentaries. And they're like the most important works, the ones that take well, more than a year to make. I mean, they're the big things that are meant to last, as we must preserve this movement for posterity as it inspires many people in future generations, and even today it's already inspiring people in other countries. People watch the movie says, I don't know anything about Miley. Who was Miley? They watch the movie and in 90 minutes, they'd get a summary of Miley's epic journey, and that I've heard from other countries that it has really inspired them to carry on the fight in their own nations.
And still more to see.
what's next?
2 questions. First, I'd like to know how the lifting of the currency controls was experienced at the Casa Rosada. And second, how are you preparing, both emotionally and professionally, for Javo's re-election? Thank you.
Good. No, it was a party, a celebration.
No, it was incredible. All at Casa Rosada were happy. Even the Kirchnerists were happy. Unbelievable.
Ecstatic.
Yeah.
So yeah, honestly, it was a very festive atmosphere, very festive. Oh no, okay, the re-election, obviously. We weren't prepared. In this never-ending cultural battle, and yes, obviously we're getting ready.
We're already used to not sleeping anyway. You were talking about morale. Poor Santi here once caught pneumonia. It was awful.
No way. Yeah, no, it was intense.
But hey, he survived. Here he is. And well, sometimes that's how it is. You don't sleep. Maybe you get 4 hours and then you're back at it. But it's a huge sacrifice on our part. But at the same time, you're thinking that you're witnessing history live. And that's it. That alone makes me feel fulfilled. The best government in history, no doubt. Let's go, Miley.
Go, Malia.
The mood is really good because things are going really well. So it's like there's never overconfidence. But the mood couldn't be better because it's like
The unseen done in a short time.
everything the government is doing well and mess that is the opposition. You say, well, it's likely we're going to. No. I don't want to say. I'd rather stay humble, keep working. Mood is high as things go well.
No, and besides, it's the fact that we see things really being done with that passion, with very hard work. I mean, the entire cabinet of ministers, each one plays a key role and uses their knowledge to help Argentina move forward. This isn't a space for cronyism. I'll put you here. We've seen during Kirchnerism candidates where you'd be like, why is this person here? We have a governor of the province of Buenos Aires and we don't know how he is governor. That doesn't exist here. Here, it's about people with capabilities who are in that position to improve the country.
So, the number one criterion, Karen and Javier Milei in selection, is how competent you are. Trust and relationships help, but the number one factor is whether you're competent.
And he got
My question, Santiago, I asked you, but I don't know the current outcome. How are we doing with the work of showing the reality across the provinces in the interior of the country? Because I believe that what really communicates is reality more than words.
What?
And there's misery, poverty, and the lack of infrastructure, people suffering, and even people from other provinces unaware of other provinces. Comparing reality is crucial from the visual campaign side due to your point. How's that going? Because the 2027 campaign is coming up, I think it's an opportunity for the interior and the province of Buenos Aires to also respond well to the needs we have. That's on one hand. On the other hand, well, I think it's really good not to use, maybe not to use hate as a tool, because hate is something that has poisoned humanity and it actually came from socialism. I think our attitude has more to do with detesting or rejecting authoritarian ideas, but let's not respond to hate with more hate. Instead, like you just said, if force comes this way, I move a little more in the other direction, because that's how you overcome it. But that's just my personal opinion.
All right. Let's try to stick to just questions so that more people can respond. Santiago.
Well, ideally, each province, each district, would have its own audiovisual team so they can do the work of showing what's really going on. So, well, I always encourage people in each province to form their own teams and do the work you're talking about. Now, as for showing reality, there's a fine line that I always try to get right, which is you have to show reality, but you shouldn't exploit people, exploit their image of need, because that's something Kirchnerism does a lot, right? For example, the film by Tristan Bauer, I think it's called Tierra Erizada, is poverty porn, it's light. And it's exploiting people because these Kirchnerists go, film people in extreme need, and then leave. And they don't end up helping them. So that's exploitation of someone who is going through a need, through a situation of misery or extreme hardship. Ethically, that's something I don't like to do. So, no, I don't do it. I mean, it's about showing reality, but not crossing that line where you're exploiting people. You're kind of taking advantage of their need for some kind of publicity effect. So, for me, that's out of bounds, let's say. So, yeah, just that, in case you find the concept interesting. But anyway, no then.
What you're saying is perfect. It's wonderful because I don't agree with that kind of defamatory propaganda. But I was talking about showing reality. I don't know aerial views, how the cities, how they're...
Every time we've traveled with Javier to the provinces, we've shown the reality.
No, what is currently being done in the provinces? We've traveled with Karina, with Martin, we've met with the local leaders in each place. And for example, there's a format just like what we're doing right now, a Q&A session where people from each province gather and ask questions to Karina and Martin, and they also talk about the issues in each area. Some of the most intense situations happened when we went to Formosa. And right there we heard testimonies that showed a completely different reality. I had never been to Formosa before, and when we arrived, I saw posters with Infant's face all over the city. And I was like, is this Argentina or am I in North Korea? Because it was crazy.
Yeah, a video I made, a top video, is about Miley's 2021 Formosa visit, where we showed that, yeah, it feels like a different country, like a dictatorship, an Argentine North Korea. And we showed all we could.
People live in much fear. So, what I'm talking about is listening to the people from each place and the issues. These people there were saying that they had gone to this place to talk with Karina, to talk with Martin, and that maybe for going to speak, there were people there who were listening to them, and that maybe that person wouldn't be treated at the hospital the next day. Another woman said, today I'm here speaking, and maybe my kids won't be allowed into school. And that's a lot. You think, how can something like this happen? It's been years and years and years of mismanagement, of corruption, and of feudal power that must not be allowed to happen again, that must not be repeated. That has to end, and that's what we need to work on thoroughly. Enough with the impunity.
Very well.
Next question.
Well, I'm Leonardo Griffo. I came from Mendoza just to see you all, to show support and gratitude, really. I don't have a question to ask you, just want to take this moment to personally thank you in public. Everything you've said is true, and I believe you've addressed everything through all that you've been doing, the social need, the political need, the party need. So from my humble place, I'm a total outsider. I started getting into social media, started getting into politics, and everything you do, everything you've done and continue to do is a response to that. So,
This is a party of outsiders. The 2021 campaign began. It wasn't just Javier Milei who was an outsider. Karina was also an outsider to politics. Emilio Lemoyne. We were all people, all outside the system. The defining trait is Milei as an outsider, but also the people of Libertad Avanza were outsiders to politics. That's our defining trait as a political force. Being an outsider is perfectly fine. Even better.
We do things because we feel them from within.
Very well. Does anyone else want to ask something?
Hi, my name is Alan Vejar. I'm from Parana, Entre Rios, a province pretty riddled with corruption. You can see it, there's Uribari, Cuter, among others. And well, I ask you to help us build momentum to put an end to that. And well, I wanted to ask you, what does it feel like to be part of the best government in history?
Posting.
Incredible.
What can you say? No? Yeah.
There are just no words. Honestly, there are no words. Every day is a new experience. And it's witnessing history firsthand and knowing, literally, that Argentina is being rebuilt after so many years of decline.
Very good.
The truth is, we do everything humanly possible to help all the provinces. Those who know me know how much I work. I work a lot, and we do everything humanly possible. But we also don't want the centralism of Buenos Aires to stifle. This is liberalism. No, we don't want. We want it to emerge. We want creators to emerge from each locality. Because if everything always comes from the top down, or is done mostly from above, it kind of stifles spontaneous growth and emergence of people from each province. And on the other hand, what does it feel like to be part of the best government in Argentina? Well, I think it's incredible. The first time I entered the Casa Rosada was here with Javier. No, I had never been inside the Casa Rosada, not even on a school trip. And the craziest part is that 3 years ago we were protesting in front of the Casa Rosada, protesting the quarantine right in front of it. So it was like those barriers that were once impenetrable for regular people like us, and now we're the ones inside, and we go there every day or almost every day, because we also work following the president everywhere all around the world nowadays. But even to this day, sometimes I walk in and say, wow, this is crazy, we're actually here. I can't believe it. I can't believe we're here, that suddenly I have an office here.
And nice the house dynamic change. The Grenadiers issue, once overlooked,
Hell do we?
and Javier greets them individually on arrival. And that's amazing. And the Grenadiers, if you speak about them, they're thrilled and can't believe it. It's about humility.
And the chainsaw has gone through and is still going through the state, but we've also discovered a lot of people, the real public servant, the one who truly is a value, let's say, for the country. We've also come across a lot of people like that who are wonderful, and one time I made a comparison on TV, like I enjoy doing with movies, which was that, for me going in, especially I felt it more when I entered the Quinta de Olivos. It was like Belle from Beauty and the Beast entering the Beast's abandoned castle, and everything was tattered. But there were still some good servants there who wanted to do things right, who were eager to make things work. So that was also part of the experience. And honestly, it's incredible. Very honored. And even though, let's say, it's a huge team doing amazing things. Yeah, honestly, it's a real honor to be part of it, and well, just with humility, working to move the country forward, and that the best government in history or the best movement in history is something that's built every single day. You want to be the best because you want to beat the bastards on the other side. So I get emotional, man, but
Yeah, it feels exciting, wonderful. It's the best. Alright, shall we continue?
And when you see that the people have hope, it's really, really rewarding for the soul.
We get emotional, and many on the other side do too, huh? It feels so nice. Alright, next question.
Hi, how's it going? First of all, congratulations, and then I'd like to ask you about what's coming next, about the future. We know we're in an election year, and it's the first time that we're not going to be the opposition, that we're actually in power. Are you afraid that this might change the communication style a bit? How are we going to face that? And do you think Malia and Karina will be there supporting us, stepping up and showing their faces on the front line?
Okay, in today's ad, Miley supports Adorni. Of course, it's different. We're the national government now, but in other provinces, we're still the opposition. Okay, so here in Buenos Aires City, we're the opposition. Over there, it's been 20 years of the same administration, and it's really worn out and ready for a change. But yes, the dynamic obviously changes. To start with, it's like when you're campaigning from the outside. As an outsider, you have a big advantage. You're not really responsible, let's say, for fixing things. Solve Argentina's problems while campaigning. So you have to be responsible. So it adds, now you are responsible. Now you, the Argentine people trusted, or they trusted Javier. They trusted him with the fate of the economy, the fate of the country. You're campaigning while responsible for bringing solutions, overcoming all the challenges that come with that. So that's one of the main changes. And yeah, it shifts. It's like we've moved on from the revolutionary years when everything was more guerrilla style and more anarchic. And now what's needed is consolidation, law order, being better structured, and all that. But we must never lose the ANCAP spirit, never lose the revolutionary spirit, never lose the spirit, let's say, of the person working from the ground up to change things. We have to keep that spirit and not let ourselves be overwhelmed by the system. That must never be lost. But at the same time, you're responsible for the government now, and that's a big difference.
No, it's like we were saying. Nowadays, there's no opposition candidate out on the streets. But in fact, our candidates are out there. Our ministers were out on the streets today. We have to start. We're focused on the campaign here in Caba, as the election is in May, and then we'll have the national election. We'll cover all the topics. We'll see how to handle things in the provinces in terms of communication and campaigning. But yeah, today we need to focus on the Caba campaign. We have to support Adorni and the appropriate candidates in Caba. Alright, let's move on to...
Just one last question.
Many as you want her to.
All right, they're letting me ask 2 more questions.
Hi, how are you? I had 2 questions. One is about, I understand that we're winning, dismantling the currency controls, reducing poverty, lowering inflation, and we're all here to celebrate that. What?
No, you should never.
No, that was the question. Yeah, I wanted to know if you had any kind of meteorite or bad omen to say, hey, watch out, even though we're on the right track, this could still happen or there's an imminent danger. Until recently, people were talking about the low reserves at the central bank or things like that. And the second one is, regarding the elections in the provinces, like in provinces such as Formosa, which are completely broken dictatorships, what can a citizen from Formosa, who's been co-opted by the provincial government, do? And what can the national government do to help in a situation that seems hopeless?
Well, as Santiago said, should never fall asleep, always awake discussing the government's achievements, such as the currency controls being lifted and potential uncertainty. It's important to stay informed. Nowadays, information is spread through social media. And in fact, there's a very strong economic team and a group of ministers who know what they're doing. So, we need to be confident that every decision made is aimed at improving things and moving the country forward. So in that sense, we should stay calm, because everything is perfectly calculated. Then, regarding what you mentioned about provinces like Formosa, what can be done? Well, right now what can be done is to wait for the elections and, for people to, get involved, to join La Libertad Avanza, to join the fight in every province. Because the cultural battle is key. It's about going out into the streets, talking to people, explaining how things can be changed so that when election time comes, people are informed and ready to change their reality.
Eh? Bravo.
No, I'm not going to comment on the economic part. No. That's not something I can speak on. I mean, it's a subject that's beyond me. No, the ITHTH the danger, but I think we're doing well. I'm going to talk more about. I mean, since cinema is, the art of the soul, in a way, expressed audio-visually, you should never lose the original soul, the original ideas, those should never be lost. And sometimes, with the hustle of politics, those things are put at risk, but that's what must never be lost. So the only risk I see, at least in the area that concerns me most, is that. I mean, let's never lose the spirit that drives us. I have faith that we won't lose it, but we always have to stay very alert about it. Then, for people who are in Formosa or in really tough places, we recently talked about losing fear. Obviously, I can't really give an opinion either, because I said, well, I lost my fear, but deep down I'm someone who has a lot of. I mean, I have a lot of advantages because my parents gave me a very good life. So I say, who am I to tell someone from Formosa, lose your fear and fight against Infran? Because over there, around here, well, people insult you on social media, maybe some job opportunities get closed off, or friends turn against you, or maybe you get into a fight with a family member, you know. But in Formosa, it's that a paramilitary gang grabs you and beats you with sticks. So yeah, the key thing is, for those provinces, it's to lose the fear. But I say it with a lot of nerve because I know that over there because it's hard here and it's hard in the country, but there it's really tough, seriously. They could even kill you. I mean, so I say the key is to lose the fear, but I say it with a lot of humility and a bit of audacity because, well, it wasn't easy here either, but we definitely have it much easier than in those provinces that are heavily oppressed. But that's the key, losing the fear and trying to get the people to rise up against these pseudo-dictatorships, like Infrans. What can be done? Nothing. And then it's also that, well, and if not, then at least as individuals, don't give up, don't let the situation in your province and the semi-dictatorship you live under, the prejudices, get in the way of your studies, your education, and moving forward in life.
You have to keep learning. Exactly. And good people should keep educating themselves.
That's why.
That they keep coming.
That they seek their own growth, personal growth, and that they try to.
Education is key. It's what will give them the tools to overcome every situation.
That they try to get out of that situation in the best way possible for themselves and their families, and that they don't let themselves, be absorbed by the clientelist and repressive system in those provinces.
Very well. So,
quick fun question, if that's okay. You had the chance to accompany Miley to CAC, and there's a story going around about a chainsaw moment with Elon Musk, involving a very laid-back policy and his Dodge department. Any anecdote?
No, look. What I can tell you is that Elon Musk's fascination with Miley is 100% real, genuine. The guy is crazy about Miley. It's incredible. I mean, and, well, hanging out with him and the chemistry between them is amazing. I mean...
No, well, but an interesting anecdote from CAC was that, of course, he brought him the gift of the chainsaw. You've got the whole video of Elon lifting the chainsaw. And actually, Javier wasn't supposed to appear on stage with Elon. Then, in the moment, Elon said to him, Javier, I want you to come on stage with the chainsaw. So, it all just happened.
Was planned.
All of it out of nowhere.
Do you realize how incredible that is? I mean, how amazing it is.
That Elon asked our president to please come up on stage with him.
That this guy, maybe the second most powerful man in the world after Trump, or the guy who's right there at the very, very, very top of the world, takes an Argentine president and puts him in that kind of spotlight. It's something that's never happened never in history. Because one thing I'm noticing is that Miley is truly the most influential Argentine president abroad in history.
Totally.
Today, Argentina is rock and roll, baby.
Yeah.
Ew.
But yeah, no Argentine president, not even Perón, had such a strong international influence like Miley. Perón left a very strong mark in history, but internationally, not so much. His mark on history is huge, but his global impact was limited. Evita had a much bigger international impact than Perón.
In how many languages is Long Live Freedom shouted?
And Javier Milei is the most influential Argentine president abroad in history. That's how it is. That's just how it is, and I stand by that.
Well, that's all for now. Thank you so much for taking part, for being here, because we know you're giving 100% and it's not easy. It was a real pleasure meeting you.
Thank you.
I really hope you also enjoyed this segment.
And remember that each one of you can stop being a spectator and become a protagonist. You have to get involved. You always have to get involved.
Right.
Long live freedom. Damn it.